Ooh. Hey Parasocials, I'm Robert, RTG2, and today I'm going to be talking about Project 3, which is all about industrial design, and I'm really excited. So Project 3 was about stationery. No, not paper, not furniture either. It's about desk ornamentation. In this case, we had to make 3 items that would go on someone's desk, and we had a user to design them for. So as usual, I'm going to start off with our research and exploration. So here we have our exploration phase. We had to make multiple different mini models of basic functions, well, basic elements, things like planes, lines, and volumes. This was also that we could figure out what elements to include in our design and also to show us and help us express different shapes and geometries when we're designing things. I'm not very good at organics, so this square, more rectilinear thing came out pretty easy for me. There were a lot of things to do. A lot of them I enjoyed them, and a lot of them ended up in my design. But most of them were from the curved category. So we had to do curved lines, curved planes, and curved volumes as well. And so there's a total of a lot of models, a lot of them. But the study was worth it, and it worked out really well in my design's favor. So next we did research on a user. I first had one user, which led to this set of ideation. But as you can see by the end of it, the style was changing to something more fantasy, more whimsical. And that was because my mind was already set on a different person, which I just had to hear back from and see if I could switch to them to being my user for this project. So I switched, and my design became much more dark academia, fantasy, cottagecore than it was before, which was more minimalistic and angular. And I really loved it. It was a perfect fit, and I loved designing in this fantasy style. Amazing. So here's a mood board that shows the dark academia, dark browns, some Victorian style brass and whatnot. And moving forward from these ideations, I took away 4 things. And there were 4 things that my user wanted. My user wanted a tea set, so she could drink tea. I thought my user wanted more lighting. She wanted soft lighting, and I wanted to make it something portable. She wanted a candle wax melter, because she wasn't allowed to have open flames. And finally, wanted a succulent planter. And I decided to make this one usable. So now let's move on to schematic design, which is where we take this and we start boiling it down into what our final design is going to be like. So the schematic design phase, I took these designs to boil down. The kalimba one took a bit because I wanted to make the musical part, but I also had to deal with that plants need light. What a shame, you know? Why can't plants just grow in the dark? But my plants needed air, so I had to change my design. The mbira, kalimba, whatever the instrument is called, is now going to be flipped. So I took the mbira, I flipped it, and then I flipped the inside. So now the sounding hole was on the front. Okay, and then I also put the keys inside the sounding hole by just rotating the sounding plate. So now I have this design, which ended up being really close to my final design, which you'll see a bit. It has the steel tongues on the front, it has the sounding box around the steel tongues, and then it has the planter on top and a little suspension part underneath to allow the sounding board to vibrate freely. Next, we have the lantern design, which had a whole crisis. It went from being Victorian and dark to becoming Japanese and pagoda-like, which I love this design personally, but it didn't fit in with the rest of it, so I had to switch it. Then it became a sphere and a cone-ish shape, and then a cube. Didn't really like the cube, didn't like how that was going. It would have been hard to make anyways because I'd have to bend the acrylic into that shape. So I got to the final design, or close to it. A sphere with slats. It was not the final design. Then I forced that into a square, and it became a cube with slats, and it had 4 little corner pieces and then acrylic spanning in between the middle. But it didn't super fit in with my design. My professor wanted something different, so I just completed it and made it a wood barrel, essentially, with 2 acrylic slabs and a light inside, with a leather handle. And we'll see that final design in a bit as well. The candle wax melter was basically one and done. I just took the kalimba, sliced off the bottom, and made the top shorter, and it became this little slate slabby thing. Didn't really have a design crisis with that one. I did have a receipt printer, which I was trying to shoehorn into this project because I really liked it and I really wanted it. Still going to make it eventually. But I didn't have time for this project to do it, and honestly, it would have taken too much work to do anyways, because not only would I have to do the hardware, I'll have to also work on the software for the printer itself. So that one got scrapped. But it did go through different phases. It went from slate to steampunk to slate again. So you see it like had a crisis, like a midlife crisis, and then it just went back to normal. It was like, let's just do our thing. Finally, we have the tea set. This one's the anchor for the whole project. This one is what influenced all the other designs, because this one is one was basically finalized first. I made a cylinder cube thing with rounded corners, nice and soft, and I made 4 cups that were identical images of that, but smaller and different proportion sizes, so it just matches and makes it a set. It has a 3:1 ratio, so the pot is 3 inches tall, the cups are 2 inches tall, and the drawer is 1 inch tall. So that's the bottom part, so it's like a 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. There it is. Now let's see the final designs. This is what I made by hand. This is the tea set. I love it. Then comes the Embera succulent planter. Then the candle wax melter, because I don't want to disappoint. And then the lantern. Yeah. And then here's the family picture of them. And then finally the rendering, which will go again, but in a different order this time, because why not? And then the final family picture of them. These are multiple renderings that I use in my final project. That completes the recap of what I did for the project. Now let's go into my thoughts about it and some of my reflections on what I would have done differently or things that I enjoyed. I really enjoyed this project. As you can tell, I loved it a ton. And unlike last project, which I focused heavily on technology, I couldn't really with this project because I had to build it myself. So I tried to push the envelope and the boundary of what I could do and what these products could be. So the lantern might not have been that revolutionary, didn't incorporate anything advanced or technologically different. I just used an Edison lamp I found on Amazon that cut up and shoved inside of a barrel. The teapot wasn't super advanced, but the techniques required to make the teapot are really advanced. So the teapot itself is double-walled. As you can see in this section, it is cut in this section to show you the air gap inside so that when you grab it, you don't burn your hands. That's why the teapot and the teacups don't actually need handles, because you can just grab them without burning yourself. This has precedent in ancient Chinese and Japanese designs, but I never actually looked up how to make those, which is on me. But I guess it was slip casting, and you can make certain things like this with slip casting. So I've been trying to do that ever since, and I'm actually still working on that. I still really want to make it. So that one was really difficult. And one of the most interesting, I think, that I changed was the Kalimba/Embera succulent planter, where I flipped and put the steel tongues on the inside, because I have never seen one like that before. I just thought it was super interesting that I could do that and it still kept the fidelity of the sound coming out of the instrument relatively okay. And it's hard for me to tell because I used like flags that you use to mark water lines in your yard as the steel tongues. I didn't actually use real Kalimba or Embera steel tongues, but it did serviceably. And then the candle wax melter, again, also not super advanced, but it was just within the range of stuff I could do, but also be still difficult. So instead of using a lamp to melt the wax, like you normally use that's an incandescent bulb underneath a tray, I used a ceramic tray again that was supposed to be double walled too, so that the outside wouldn't get hot, but just the inside. And then the heating element would be a nichrome wire underneath that would heat up the wax so that it could melt, but also still be low profile, so it wouldn't rise more than an inch off your desk. That rounds out the technology and all the stuff that I put into it. What I would have done differently is not actually change anything. I actually really loved all of them, how they came out. I probably would have added back the receipt printer in and just spent a heck of a lot more time working on the project and fleshing everything out, detailing more about how the processes work, the electronics in the candle wax melter and the lantern, detailing how to actually make the tea set, making the Embera Kalimba succulent planter an actually good instrument, and then also fixing the planter so that the roots of plants don't rot in there. Someone suggested to me that if there isn't a drainage point, then it could rot the plants, so I'm going to change that so the plants don't die. And I would probably also detail all the way down to the packaging. Just because I really love this project so much, I would love to make the small diagrams and detail how things work, how to set everything up, and how best to use everything. So really the only thing I would have done differently in this project is spent more time and more detail and more care and make this project better on its own. And that brings me to some final news. I am still working on this tea set, and I am probably still going to work on the other aspects of this project. You might see the receipt printer come up again, but eventually on this channel you'll see a video that explains how I made the tea set, the actual one, when I make a ceramic one. I'll show you my process, and I also have some other videos coming up of projects that I'm working on, and this will probably be one of the last overview videos I do for a while, because I want to focus on projects that are exciting, and these videos are more for my own documentation as well, and also explaining to people and showing them what I do at school. So the next video on this channel is going to be an open letter to my peers, which is going to talk about what I learned in this semester about design. So keep an eye out for that. And then after that, I'm also going to be posting different projects that I'm working on that I'm really excited about and ready to show you guys. So don't forget to like, subscribe, so you don't miss another video, and share this with a friend. Bye!